Good evening, Jamsters, and welcome to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Time coming to you live after the Phoenix Suns take off. They did take off tonight. They took off all over the horny Hornets and beat them in a good old-fashioned swashbuckling there, Matthew. 31-point victory for the Suns, baby.
Yeah, feeling good tonight, huh? Very easy. How many times did you pass out during this game? I only snoozed a bit. I probably about 5 minutes of this game. a little quick nap.
None. A total
None?
of zero.
Okay.
Well, it's because we had some turkey tonight. You know, we're doing kind of an early Christmas at the Voida household, considering I will not be home for Christmas. But for those of you who are watching along live, you can see I am home right now. And I got to say, it's so much nicer doing my podcast from like my normal podcasting area instead of a shitty hotel room somewhere. So this feels nice to be home. We had the fam over. We had some turkey a little bit earlier, some gravy, a little bit of the stuffing. And yeah, I mean, it was tough. This was one of those games where I felt myself kind of nodding a little bit because it was a snooze fest. I mean, the Suns beat the living shit out of the Charlotte Hornets tonight. And I'll admit, Matthew, I was wrong. You know, at the end of last podcast, we're talking about, who's going to win this game. And I really saw the Suns losing this game just because Lamelo Ball is a fantastic talent. There's a ton of athleticism on this team. And then the Charlotte Hornets go out there and they shoot horribly in this game, shoot 36% from the field, 36 of 100. And I was wrong. And you know what? I'm happy to be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the energy I thought would be brought a little bit more from the Hornets, but they just showed up short. And maybe it's just because they're from the East. They're a mediocre team from the East. And usually when those come over, those drop down even a couple more notches when you're playing a Western team. And it was just too much for them, especially when the Suns are hitting every freaking three in the first half. Just about.
Yeah, just about the entire game. I mean, they set a season high in total points scored, a season high in total three-pointers made. Yeah. It was literally just the tale of two teams tonight. So if anybody asks you, hey, what happened with that Suns game last night? And you want to give them just kind of the quick elevator speech, if you're getting on an elevator somewhere and somebody asks you that question randomly out of the blue because you're wearing a Suns shirt or something, you can just simply tell them, be like, there's a tale of two teams. The Suns were in fuego and the Charlotte Hornets couldn't buy a basket. And until the very end of the game, in which Kelly Oubre was just sitting there picking off points wherever he could, essentially.
He really was. He wanted to blow some kisses tonight. It didn't really happen the way he expected. But I mean, that's basically his career. So good luck to him and see him again shortly, maybe.
Yes, and we'll talk about him and plenty much more on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. So for those of you who are joining us, we appreciate it. Make sure you follow the show on Twitter at Suns Jam. You can subscribe on YouTube and massage that thumbs up button while you're here. Go for it. You can blow a kiss to it as well. Do a Kelly Oubre, down 30, blowing kisses. You can become an elite Jamster by clicking the join button or following the link in the description. Feel free to donate to the show via the super chat so we can use it to get Matthew a Cam Johnson jersey. Subscribe, rate, and review the pod wherever you're consuming this podcast for all your favorite Phoenix Suns content. That includes Spotify, where you can now give starred reviews. So give us a 5-star review on Spotify if you're listening to us on that platform. You can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll read it right here on the pod. Last but not least, you can follow me at Darth Voida on Twitter. You can follow Matthew on Twitter
at Matthew Lissy.
And it's time to pop open some ice cold beer. So Matthew, let's pop them open.
You got a Diet Coke?
Let's do this.
I got a beer. Might as well end the weekend this way.
Yes, sir. Crack them. Let's talk about this swashbuckling that the Suns put on the Hornets, baby. Cheers. The number one team in the National Basketball Association, the Phoenix Suns, played the Charlotte Hornets tonight in Phoenix. And, I got to kind of start this podcast where we ended the last podcast, Matthew.
Matthew, I got to ask.
How many Lamelo Ball jerseys did you see there? Because you said at the end of the last podcast that we would see not maybe more than Devin Booker, but at least an equal amount of Lamelo Ball jerseys in the stands. Because you by your logic, I'm assuming you can verify this or not. the modern NBA fan has more of an affinity towards players versus teams. So therefore, when you have an electric talent come into town that is personified by Lamelo Ball, you are most likely going to see more of his jersey in the stands of Phoenix Suns. So, Matthew, I got to ask, how many Ball jerseys did you see?
Well, you were counting for me. I think I saw one. And then after that, it's really tough for me. So you picked out, I think it was 3-3 when I was over there. Did you see any more? Because I actually heard EJ talk about how he saw a lot of LaMelo jerseys. He didn't give us a count. And I actually was looking in the crowd.
Come on,
It's
EJ.
kind of hard to tell with the new lighting. The new lighting in the arena is really, really nice. Madison Square Garden lighting. So it's tough to see the fans as much. So I didn't really see too many. I saw it was 3-3 though when I left your house. So did you see any more after that?
Yeah, so we're watching the pregame together, and I'm counting them in the background, because Matthew's half asleep on the couch because he just smashed on some turkey, and he's just kind of he had his hoodie on, and he looked like a depressed rapper at the end of my couch. And I was telling him as we were watching the pregame show, I'm like, hey man, here you go. And shout out to Sonia Lovato, one of our elite jamsters. She's like, I was trying to count, Lissy. She was trying to help you out, And you're right. You're more right than I want to necessarily admit, because I did see plenty of them. I saw the Buzz City version. I saw the Association version. I saw the City Edition version, which I think is the Buzz City version. But before the game, behind Tom Chambers, I saw plenty of those LaMelo Ball jerseys. But as the game progressed and they showed the inside, you're right. It's really hard to see in that arena very far back, but I was kind of watching, and I did see a lot of Devin Booker jerseys, and I saw a lot of them on our female Phoenix Suns fans. That's who I saw were rocking a lot of those jerseys, as well as a lot of the kids. I did see a couple more on the inside, but the Devin Booker jerseys clearly outweighed the LaMelo Ball jerseys. Good thing that we didn't really put a bet on that, but it's an interesting observation, and that kind of transitions us right into the fact that welcome back Devin Booker, right? Like Booker was back. It was announced kind of midday today, right in the middle of the Arizona Cardinals just getting completely destroyed on television to the Detroit fucking Lions. A tweet came out that said, "Hey, Devin Booker's going to play tonight," and all of a sudden I was like, "Yeah, fuck the Cardinals, let's go Suns."
You switch over that fast, huh? Well, I mean, you have to, right? To just forget about the heartache that today with the Cardinals.
It's the Cardinals, man. Anytime they have an
geez.
opportunity to clinch a playoff spot, they're like, fuck this.
They forget how to play. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. It is part of being a Cardinals fan, so that's why I stay away. But it's good to have Book back. He didn't really miss a beat. He was getting to the rim early in the game, doing what he wanted against that really terrible Hornets defense. I mean, everybody was pretty much abusing them towards the rim, including Book, who got a dunk. It's nice to see him getting up and looking agile, looking like he hasn't missed a step and that he's back, and no injuries really bothering him. So it's always good to see, man. It's another guy into the starting lineup where now you can have your bench at full capacity again with Shamit. I know you're still missing Dario Saric and Kaminsky, but I mean, it's getting back to normal here in Phoenix. When you have that starting lineup back to its full core, now you can just start, going back to the basics with the Suns and how they were rolling early in the season. I mean, even without Booker just losing those 2 games, they didn't really miss too much of a step, but it just looked like, as the score shows, I mean, at full capacity, the Suns are just basically unstoppable in every version of the way, especially when you're playing against the Hornets, who, I thought they would bring a lot more energy against, because Book's back. LaMelo probably wants to show up against them, and it just didn't happen. It's kind of disappointing a little bit, because I wanted to see a little bit of a back and forth between LaMelo and Booker, but we didn't really get that tonight. But I'll take what we got, and what we got is a solid game from Book. Only not even 30 minutes tonight either.
Well, that's the beauty of it all. If you think about it, Devin Booker has been out the past 7 games. 8 if you include the fact that he went out in the second quarter against the Golden State Warriors. And if you include that game, they're 6-2 in those games. So just, how Devin Booker must feel knowing that he could take a little extra time, and that this was a good opportunity to kind of get primed up. The Washington Wizards, that was the last game. The Charlotte Hornets were coming off of a game that they played the previous night, right? I think it was the second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like, and I didn't even look it up, but yeah, I can look that up though.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up right.
I'm gonna
right
look
here.
it up.
No, I'm gonna look it up, dude. Come on, I've got back as well. They lost 2 days ago. They lost 2 days ago to Portland in a game that they were getting kind of killed. So Devin Booker, he's feeling all right. He had plenty of time to get ready for this game. And that's the beautiful thing about all of this, is the fact that he has the ability to take his time to get back. And then when he does come back, he's not being asked to carry this team. He ends the night 6 of 15 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3, which is kind of impressive for Devin Booker. A lot of three-pointers, and he made 50% of them, and ended with 16 points, 5 assists, and 6 rebounds. So it wasn't a stellar performance, but it was exactly what you wanted to see from Devin Booker. It's exactly what the kind of performance that's like, hey, welcome back. Let's go ahead and get you kind of reintegrated into the offense. As one of our elite jamsters, Parker Hines, says, he says, Book looked good. We didn't need him to look like Michael Jordan out there tonight or Kobe Bryant. We needed him to look like, 60, 70% of Book to show us that he's kind of priming himself back up. So when that Christmas Day game comes, he's ready to rock and roll. And real quick, a shout out to WD-40 says the Cardinals should stop reading the Notebook before they take the field. I agree with that 110%.
What does that mean? Did I miss something?
You ever seen the Notebook?
I mean, no, I never seen it, but
okay. Well,
okay. Well.
Some jokes just don't land on you, Matthew, because you don't watch or consume anything.
Yeah, I'm sure I would love that movie. Probably watch it twice in a row, especially if it makes me cry. But it's funny when Book's back into the game. You don't have to really rely on him to do too much. I mean, we have a lot of ball handlers on the team already, a lot of scorers on the team. Scoring's not an issue. It was a few times maybe when Book was out where it's like, oh, we just need that one scorer to be in the game, and maybe we can win this game with a couple of losses we did have, and that would have been Book. But I mean, coming into this game, you just don't have to rely on too much. And you can just tell that him being on the court, he just seems so comfortable. And he had a couple threes early to start the third quarter, and the second one against Lamelo Ball, that was pretty decent.
That was nice.
That was really nice. Those are things you don't really see from Book, but you can just tell before he even released that one where Lamelo's hands are down. It's a free shot. I mean, you don't really expect defense from Lamelo, but he just wants to kind of show up against him a little bit. And when he gets that one to go down, and the next one, he tries to do a turnaround three and he misses that one. That one still looked good too. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit of a different kind of vibe from Book, trying to get these really nice threes off. And, just, I don't know. He's just kind of having fun out there tonight.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of this team right now. So you can come back, have a little fun, and we can still completely dominate. And here's what's impressive about this game. All right, get ready for this one, Suns fans. The Suns won by 31 points tonight. We had 0 scorers over 20 points and 9 players in double digits. 9. Jeez. And they were led, of course, by our boy, JaVale McGee. Yes, JaVale McGee led all Phoenix Suns scorers with 19 points. He was 9 for 10 from the field, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 1 steal. And, we do this every podcast at this point, Matthew, where we sit here and we just go, he's great. Like, I don't know how else to verbalize how fantastic he's been for this team. But it just goes to show you how dominant they were tonight, where they had 9 players in double figures led by JaVale McGee.
Yeah, I mean, he basically, he won't let up. I mean, when you came into the third quarter, they asked EJ, like, do you expect anything crazy this half? Like, what do you expect from the Suns coming out? And he just talks about how, it is difficult to keep these leads, but I don't think we really think that anymore with the Suns team, because the way they come out in the second half, especially when McGee's in there to come back in after Chris Paul's taken over with the first team offense, him and DeAndre Ayton again tonight looked even more solid. And then you have McGee to come in and not let up. You have Cameron Payne to not let up. But McGee is the guy. He is the actual guy, the energy guy to come off the bench. And just made me think, too, like Sixth Man of the Year award, they released some kind of statistic that came up, and it was Cameron Johnson, who was like 4th in the league with points off bench with like 14.7, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that's amazing. I didn't know he was up there with the elite group of the Sixth Man award contending group. And you have to think McGee, I mean, Payne at the beginning of the year, I thought he looked really good, but right now it's just kind of, if you were to choose McGee or Cameron Johnson, I mean, which one would you choose? I know they're probably not going to win the award, But right now, out of the Suns, I think it would be McGee for sure. I think he's our Sixth Man of the Year award winner right now for the Suns.
I agree 110%. I mean, yeah, Cam Johnson does a lot of different things and he does them very well. He shoots the three, he plays defense, he's learning how to really expand his offensive repertoire. But JaVale McGee is the guy who is just rock solid, consistent, brings that energy, and he adds a level of offense to this team, the likes we didn't see last year. We had Dario Saric down on the block playing the 5 last year. You didn't get a physicality. You didn't get a guy who was out there, dunking the ball, blocking, doing everything crazy. We had a whole segment about Dario because he was kind of like a slow motion train wreck that you were watching and you couldn't keep your eyes off of it. And you kind of enjoyed it. It's kind of weird. That was Dario Saric last year. So yeah, JaVale McGee is definitely the Suns' Sixth Man of the Year right now. And it is interesting to hear that Cameron Johnson has put forth the performance to get, that many points per game. Cause I didn't realize that. I kind of think that he has his ups and his downs, but he's definitely a solid offensive contributor off of the bench. But JaVale McGee is the guy, man. He is the guy.
Yeah, and Nicholas Tan even says too, McGee is Sixth Man, and that he does disagree with me. Maybe he doesn't have a chance to win it. Maybe he does, obviously, with the Suns with the best record right now in the NBA. I mean, you got to look at these award things and take them seriously, especially the way McGee is playing. Around the NBA, everyone should know. Players should know. I mean, everyone's pretty much played with him at once in their career, even if they're a rookie this year. It's like, I played with McGee. Like I had to have at least 6 games in my career. So everyone does know who he is. And right now he's never played this good, I don't think, in his career. So it has to be noticed. And it's been so consistent this year. 2 games he took off and we were like, what's going on with him? Are we okay? Is everything all right? Now he's back. And I think it's just something we look forward to the rest of the year. So it's going to be something that's always going to be brought, especially 15 minutes. And that's it. And I love the offense with him because they keep feeding him over and over again, especially in this game. Just keep throwing it up. The mismatches were all over the place in the paint. So just keep throwing the ball up to him, and he's going to get the crowd involved, start yelling there in the third quarter, the takeover. So you can expect that every other game, basically, from McGee.
Yeah, isn't that, a pleasant sight to see because you don't see it too often? I feel like, if you're playing football, I'm sorry for going back to like a Cardinals reference, but and you have DeAndre Hopkins, you should just feed that guy, right? He's like one of the best fucking receivers ever. And the Cardinals don't do it. And you see it a lot of times with the offense, especially the first team offense, where, I mean, we talk about it a lot on the pod where DeAndre Ayton will be cooking and then they just kind of go away from him. And, it's almost like Chris Paul, and you got to give it up to Chris Paul. He instinctively kind of knows how to get everybody involved in the game because he knows it's beneficial for everybody on the team holistically because that's what's going to lead them to victory. But there's times when it's clear that DeAndre Ayton will have a mismatch and they just won't hit him. And tonight you saw the exact opposite with that. I mean, the Suns saw a mismatch with JaVale McGee on the interior, and they just pounded it. They're like, okay, we're just going to keep feeding JaVale the ball until, he's either out of the game or they submit. I mean, again, he had that 19 points and 7 rebounds in only 16 minutes tonight. It's not like he was in there for 25 minutes to get that is more than a point a minute kind of night for him. And it's because the Phoenix Suns were focused on a mismatch and they just freaking exploited it nonstop.
Yeah, and you don't really say that too much anymore with Ayton, where it's like, oh, they went away from him because they keep feeding him too. So I'm thinking this has to be something where McGee might have said something like, hey, you got to keep feeding Ayton and I all game long, every game, because we're going to get the stats. We're going to put defenses in situations where, they're going to bog down into the paint and then leave the wide open shooters. So it all goes hand in hand. So if you're feeding us and we're efficient down there, it's going to feed into everything else for the offense. And it just makes sense to where, I mean, in the past with Baines isn't a guy that demands the ball in the paint. I mean,
no,
McGee's
he's more of a perimeter
center
guy.
Exactly. So now that I think we have McGee and McGee opens that up, then I think it kind of just bleeds into the first team offense where it's just like, yeah, we're going to keep feeding Ayton the way we do McGee. And that's the way it's been for like the past 20 games. We haven't really fussed at all about Ayton not getting the ball in there because I think they've just been so consistent with that too, just like they do with McGee.
No, I completely agree. And again, it goes to show you that the Suns have a true center position because they can do that. Because what starts to happen is the defense is going to have to collapse and then the perimeter becomes open. And then the Suns, on a night like tonight, they start knocking down the shots. But it all starts with this guy.
Ayton watch.
So DeAndre Ayton on the evening, another very productive start for DA in 24 total minutes, had 15 points and 15 rebounds. And he did all of his damage in the first half because that's all he needed to do tonight. This is not a night where you're going to hear me complain about, oh, we needed to continue to pound it. Like, they were up 22 at halftime. They were up 22 after the first quarter. So, the majority of his damage happened in the first half. He had 13 points and 10 rebounds, a double-double at halftime. What did you see from DA tonight that made him so successful?
I really like the defensive thing where point guards, including Lamelo tonight, I don't think they look at DA still as a mismatch, but I love the block that he had on Lamelo early in the game, where it kind of sends a message where it's not just to him, but it's to the league. It's like, if you really think like, hey, you have the mismatch on me, I'm a big man, I can't stick with you. We've seen as Suns fans, we talked about this exhaustingly, where we just talk about, DA can play against any position pretty much on the floor. And he did tonight against Lamelo with a nice block. Lamelo thought he can take him. Big block, got the body on him too, but it was all ball at first. So those are things where I'm like, do these players, do these point guards, whatever, when they're going up against DA, still think it's a mismatch? Even we saw Steph Curry where Ayton stepped out on him and had the big block against him. I think these guards still think it's a mismatch and they can go after him. And it's something that, they might look for in the game plan, but I doubt that at all. I don't think that's in the game plan at all. I just think when the guards see that he's against them, it's like, oh, this might be something. But especially when you're a team from the East and we haven't really played against them this year, even last year when Ayton, second half of the season, stepped up his defense against guards. I don't know if they really see that yet. So that's something to look out for. But yeah, I mean, his hustle, the tip balls he was winning tonight, I feel like every rebound was a tip ball. It was like Ayton got it, tip, and then he would get it back. You know what I mean? So the extra effort there, just a fantastic game. It's nothing. There's another game that wasn't a misstep from Ayton. He just continued his progress on the offensive end. He's looking really good, man.
I think that's an interesting observation, and something I really haven't thought about is, do guards kind of know that, hey, this is a no-fly zone with DA, right? As you mentioned, Steph Curry, the big block on LaMelo Ball, which was, one of those highlight moments. But it's something that I think instinctively, they're not used to having that big, who is that athletic when they attack the interior, have the ability to stick with them laterally and then create such prominent shot deterrence. So I think that no matter, in a series, when it comes to the playoffs, yes, you're going to see a lot less of guards attacking the interior in the manner, because muscle memory is something that's going to be, from game to game, they're going to be like, oh yeah, we can't do that. But when you're playing, night in and night out in the National Basketball Association, you're going to just go, hey, last game I went to the rim and there was no problem. Tonight I'm going to go to the rim and boom, I got DA standing there. And as a lot of Jamsters are noting, he was playing against Plumlee, right? Which Plumlee was it? Yeah. Mason Plumlee? It was Mason. See, I don't even know.
Yeah, Miles Bridges. All right.
Yeah, Miles Bridges, Mason Plumlee. We got Matthew's biggest fan in the chat. 123 says, do you think Plumlee is washed? Matthew, do you think Plumlee is washed? You all right there, buddy?
No, yeah, I'm good.
Oh my God, is that your picture?
Yeah, it's my picture. Is that Ashley?
That's adorable. That's what that is.
Yeah, cute. Yeah, she was taking pictures of me. That was in Vegas. Those are my modeling pics. But no, I mean, does he wash? I don't know, man. He doesn't. When he's on the floor, he's basically in the middle of four Suns every time he's trying to grab a board and grab a tip ball. He's not gonna win that against DA or even McGee or anybody else we had down there against him. I don't know if he's washed. I think he's just a Plumlee, man. He's one of the Plumlees that Suns would have gotten 5 years ago. So
sorry, Jamsters. I had to bring that question up because I saw this in the chat and I saw it was Matthew's picture, and I know
I'm also trying, or
it's Matthew's niece doing it. Who gives a shit if Plumlee and Victorious in the chat says no way he's a bigger fan than Matthew than I am. No way. So the Matthew Lissy fan club it's a real thing. So but again, a fantastic performance by DeAndre Ayton, and it was really interesting. I'm definitely going to switch gears here, but it was really interesting seeing, as we mentioned at the top of the podcast, one of our old buddies, Kelly Oubre, playing for the Charlotte Hornets tonight. Looking at some of the, WD-40, Oubre looks like Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah,
Crazy Luigi. Oubre with blonde hair looks so wrong, I swear. What do you think about Kelly Oubre?
I like the blonde hair. I like it when it's poofy though. It was too flat. I don't know if it's the weather out here. Like this blow dryer wasn't worked. Someone cut his cord. But I like the poofy hair. But Oubre, I don't know if you noticed I don't know if Eddie brought it up or someone brought it up in the broadcast about him playing in Golden State and how he just thought there was too many scores. Was that really something? Because I'm like, come on, like, is that something else he complained about?
Probably.
You know what I mean? Like someone else's fault. I don't know. I love Oubre there. I think he's been doing a great job for the Hornets, of course. And when he comes back to Phoenix, he wants to get any shot he can against them. He went on a little run there, kind of in the fourth quarter, blowing a little bit of kisses. But
yeah,
other than that, it wasn't. He didn't really have a leg to stand on with the team he was surrounded by tonight and the effort that they put forth against the Suns. It was just impossible. So I wish him all the best. I don't really know. In a game like this, in a blowout, you kind of are glad it's a blowout. So Kelly doesn't have the opportunity to hit like a dagger three or something like I thought that might have happened before the game where we did the preview. I'm like, I could see him hitting the game-winning three. There's really no option there tonight. So good thing to kind of just not shut him up, but you want to defeat those players like a Ricky Rubio.
Of course.
You like what they brought to Phoenix, but you want to just kind of shut them up, and be like, hey, we're fine without you, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, I comment to you when we were watching the game, I'm like, it's got to be really weird for Kelly Oubre playing this team because outside of Chris Paul, it's pretty much the same team, especially the starters. Chris Paul and Jay Crowder weren't there when he was, but he's out there. He's playing against Campaign, who he was around in the bubble. They didn't play together because Kelly chose not to play in the bubble. He wanted to protect his assets. Which were his legs. But seeing Devin Booker, seeing DA, seeing Cam Johnson, seeing Mikal Bridges, all these guys that he was a part of that team, it's got to be weird for him on the other side of that. But, at the same time, one thing that I noticed, and this is probably just me, but I noticed that the Suns were wearing the purple jerseys tonight, right?
Yeah.
But they had the Valley floor going on.
Yes, I know.
And I'm like, is this like a low-key diss to Kelly Oubre? Obviously, it's not. Like, no organization is going to go that far just to diss a former player. But, it brought me back to the days where Kelly Oubre is with a horse and, showing off the Valley jerseys. And like 2 days later, he's getting traded. But I did think it was funny, where he was rejected by JaVale McGee and JaVale kind of gave him the finger. But then a part of me said... And by the finger, I don't mean the middle finger, listeners. I was doing the Demikambe Mutombo. He's like, nothing in my house. He was doing that shit. But as Nicholas Blackiston, how can we get Oubre back? And this is actually something I was thinking about watching this game because now that he's accepted a bench role, he would be a decent bench player, I feel like, for the Suns because the Suns don't rely on as much chemistry on the second team as they do the first team, right? The second team is kind of always changing based off of injuries. You're going to see some guys get more minutes than others. Kelly's on year one of a 2-year, $12 million contract. So, you're talking all this Thad Young stuff. Thad Young, I think, makes $14 million. So it's like, it's definitely plausible for like Dario Saric, Jalen Smith kind of thing. Obviously the Charlotte Hornets would have to be willing to move forward with a trade that doesn't really necessarily benefit them unless they really think Jalen Smith is the shit. But would you want Kelly Oubre back? And do you think the Suns, if they did bring him back, would be beneficial for the team?
Yeah, I think it would, but it would be like, how many minutes are you going to give him? Because Cameron Johnson's already taken him, 22 minutes a game at least, and then you got Kelly, who's going to want the same amount. So I'm trying to look. I mean, Landry Shamet, you want to get him involved too, of course.
No, but you take like the Ish Wainwright, Abdul Nader, those minutes.
Yeah,
the backup three, right?
Yeah, I know. No, yeah. I would definitely want Oubre back. I think Oubre would be one of those guys that would be welcome to come back, and I think they would want him back. He would want to come back. There's no hard feelings at all, really. I don't think between him and the organization, we had to do what we had to do. I think he's over it by now. If he were to come back and help us win a championship or something, that'd be a good story, I think, for him. And he has that confidence we want off the bench. I think Cameron Payne, we look to as for confidence and some guy that can hit a big shot once in a while, when he can hit those threes. But I think Kelly, you can really count on that. You can count on him to come in and have that confidence if he knows his role, like you said. That's all we need from him. And I would love to, it's less money. And also, if he can just scrounge up those minutes from Jalen Smith like tonight, and I don't know. I mean, just those Jalen Smith minutes that we need. But then when Kaminsky comes back, maybe you got an issue there, and then you got Saric too.
Well, but
So
again,
who knows?
if we're bringing him back, we're losing Jalen Smith and Dario Saric, right? So like the Jalen Smith minutes are automatically
Yeah, that's
gone,
tough.
right?
Would you want to give up Saric, or would you rather have Kelly than Saric?
Yeah, I've got no problem having Kelly and Saric because the reason that we have JaVale McGee is to make up for sticks or make up for Saric, and he's crushing it, as we just mentioned. Like we're talking about, he is the sixth man for the Suns. As much as we like Dario, we never talked about him being the sixth man last year. You know, it was more of Cam Johnson. So
we did in the beginning. Remember, he was sixth man.
Yeah, he had it for like 2 weeks. He had two good weeks last year in like fucking February, and because the season started in late December, he was really good in February. Then he was a bum. Mega Giants 89 says, I'd love to have Oubre back. Metal Mike, who loves your hat because your hat matches his logo on YouTube, one of our elite jamsters, he says no. And then you have Alex Kroll says, don't want him back. Low Sun says, also no defense, he slacks it. Saltia Lewis, no. So I mean, here's what's interesting. You know, this is kind of why I bring up this point. And last but not least, Felix. Nope, guys, he'd take Cam Johnson's minutes, which I don't think he would. Cam Johnson plays the backup for. It's funny how far we've come as a fan base, haven't we? Remember when we traded Kelly Oubre and Ricky Rubio for Chris Paul and how divided the fan base was, at least on Twitter, which we know isn't the real world. But it was divided because so many people loved Ricky Rubio and Kelly Oubre. They were fan favorites. Chris Paul was old. Chris Paul was this. Chris Paul was that. Now we're at the point where we're the best freaking team in the NBA. And we don't want to bring in anybody unless we know that they're going to fit in perfectly here. And that's the challenge I have when I pose this question that I've spent way too much time talking about on this podcast is why bring Kelly back? You know, I mean, he's somebody who has a lot of flair and a lot of swag and a lot of personality. And he's somebody who, unless he completely and utterly accepts the confines of his role, he's one of those guys who just thinks he's better than he is and he's not humble about it. Well, good, bad, or indifferent, you know, that's what makes him successful, right? But that's not what we need here because we are, in every essence of the word, a team. And everybody knows and accepts their role and is willing to be coached. And he's one of those guys who it's like, as Eddie was mentioned on the broadcast and as you brought up earlier, like if he was having issues in Golden State because he wasn't getting enough scoring opportunities, it's like, come on, dude. He's a ball hog, right? Like, we don't need that. We don't need a guy who doesn't play defense. We need kind of a Torrey Craig type of person versus a Kelly Oubre kind of person.
Yeah, but also if he were to come back, I don't think there would be any chemistry issues. You would never hear anything like that. But Kelby is a guy I feel like that might say something. You know what I mean? Because we've heard it even when he was on the Suns. So maybe you couldn't quiet that as much as you would think, even though you're a great organization now, great chemistry and all that, great coaching, general manager. You think, maybe we can just, shove that under the rug. He wouldn't say anything, but he might. So I guess you wouldn't want to mess that up. And a lot of people are just saying juice over him too. So yeah, Torrey Craig is another guy that I would probably take over Kelly right now.
Oh, easily. And again, you look at Kelly Oubre's final stat line tonight. He had 18 points. 10 of those came in the fourth quarter, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't want to hear anybody, looking at the box score and be like, well, he scored his 18 points and he's doing this, that, and the other. It's like, dude, he got in garbage time. As Gaknar123 says, bring back the juice. Yes. Bring back Torrey, the juice Craig. I would absolutely love that. Your boy LaMelo Ball played tonight. We got to look. Did he?
He's still sick probably too.
Oh man, 2 for 12 from the field.
Yeah.
He had 10 rebounds. He had 7 assists, only had the 9 points. And here's one thing that I noticed, and I wrote down this in my notes. He got Chris Paul to start playing pissed. I kind of got a little Jordan and Pippen versus Kukoc, Team USA 1992 vibes when it came to LaMelo last night. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you obviously didn't watch The Last Dance or know your basketball history, but Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen heard that the GM for the Chicago Bulls really liked Tony Kukoc. So when they played against his team, which I believe was Croatia, in the 1992 Barcelona games, they determined they were going to shut him out. And they attacked him relentlessly to where he had a horrible first showing. He had a somewhat better second showing against Team USA. And the reason I bring this up is because I was kind of feeling that tonight between like Devin Booker and Jay Crowder and Chris Paul, right? I mean, Nick says in the chat, he's like, that Crowder stare summed it up. Crowder gave LaMelo Ball a stare after a play that, like, burned my soul. And they really went after him. I felt like Chris Paul, it's almost like, Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, all the defensive guys before the game are like, listen, this guy has so much hype about him. He's the one guy we're focusing on shutting down tonight. And again, 2 for 12 from the field. I think they did their job, Matthew.
They did. I mean, when LaMelo is, he's a star coming in here. I mean, whether or not you think he is, he basically is a star of the league, I think, already, just by the name and the play he's been showing up in Charlotte. So it's a guy you want to shut up. And I don't think it doesn't really matter how much of a vet these guys are on the Suns team where, Chris Paul and Jay Crowder, they've been around this before. They want to shut this guy up, but it does get some, who knows what he even says too on the court. You don't hear that part. So maybe he's saying some stuff like when he ran by Jay for that 3 and then Jay gave that stare. And, Jay's been the guy now where he knows the camera's on him. He's putting on a show now, with his emotions, where he's getting a lot of attention from the camera. So I think it's half and half of that. I think Jay knows when the camera's on him and he likes to actually show a little bit more emotion and have fun with it. And then he knows, like, when he's knocking down those threes and the team is just hot, he can back it up. So that's what they do, man. I think that they like, and you got to be careful too, because if you are LaMelo, don't say too much, because these guys like it. I mean, Booker likes it too. If you're going to try to light a little bit of more of a fire underneath them, I don't think they even need that, because they come out in the third quarter where they're up by 20 and they're still going to just give it to you. So I like what they did. I mean, I think that LaMelo had to have said something, because I don't really see that energy a lot where, other teams hate him so much, because I think LaMelo is very quiet from what I can see on the court. I mean, his play, sometimes he might get a little bit too crazy and show off a little bit, maybe too much. And maybe players might not like that, but talking, I don't ever see that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I watch a little bit of the Hornets. It's like I say, they're one of my league pass favorites. They're a team that if I see that they're on, like, I'll tune in and watch, because I like the way that they move the ball. I like a lot of their pieces. I like, obviously, LaMelo. I think Miles Bridges is a fantastic young talent. Kelly Oubre is obviously on the team. So as a former, a member of the Suns, I'm always interested just to kind of see what people are doing once they depart from here. But at the same time, like, yeah, I don't know. I've based on my observations, I don't see him as much of a talker. And tonight he was talking a little bit, and I swear Jay Crowder gave him that look. Who just said this right here? Let me pull it up. Metal Mike. That Crowder scare woke up my sleeping kid. I mean, it was savage. And then Chris Paul was playing pissed too. I mean, it was one of those nights where the Suns were clearly in control, and it almost felt like, Chris Paul in true Jordan-esque behavior was like trying to find ways to get himself jacked up and motivated, and having Ball on the other side kind of assisted in doing that. It wasn't the most earth-shattering night again from Chris Paul, just like last game, but you don't need him to in these situations. 24 total minutes, 14-9. Like, that's exactly what you need. And I feel like, LaMelo Ball, who only played the 25 minutes because his team was getting absolutely, demolished, really kind of was the guy who set that catalyst for the Suns to move forward and ultimately come out with a victory.
Yeah, before I sneeze, it might have something to do with COVID too. So, okay. Well, never mind. The sneeze is gone. I don't think that's very healthy for me, but I just held.
You just stare into your camera, look at all the jamsters, and all of a sudden, all of your sneezes are gone. What about Miles Bridges? What did you see from this kid tonight? 26 points, 10 of 16 from the field. A very solid, efficient night. 5 rebounds and a couple steals.
Oh, he's fun. I mean, even like the one dunk I feel like he had tonight, where it was like a runaway dunk, how high he can get up. You can just hear the difference between like him, and this is no shot at any Sun, all right? Because the Suns are a very unsexy team when it comes to the high flying, getting up there, getting the crowd involved. You don't see it as much, but you just see why Miles Bridges was a known name before Mikal Bridges, because of those dunks, and that's just the way it is. And he got the Suns fans, everybody up on his feet, even if they're down by 30 points. He can get up like that. It brings everyone to their feet. That's a lot of what people come to see when they want to go see a basketball game. Especially when you're seeing the Hornets, you want to see LaMelo Ball and you want to see Miles Bridges. Some people want to see Miles Bridges in front of LaMelo Ball because of that reason. So he's fun to watch, man. It's disappointing to me. Great stats and stuff, because I wanted to see this team actually play in a better effort against the Suns, and it's just disappointing because I wanted to see them the way that they've been playing against like these other higher, seeded teams around the East and the West, to where they put a better competition, and we just couldn't see it tonight because I wanted to see the way they play. And I think it just had to do with LaMelo, maybe with the COVID, maybe a little bit, but I just wanted to see the way Miles would play in that situation where he's going against the Ayton and Mikal Bridges in the paint and Cameron Johnson, and you just couldn't get that tonight. So that's the only thing I'm kind of disappointed in.
Well, and see, I mean, you used the word disappointed like 4 times there. I'm not disappointed at all. I mean, I love these games. I love it when the Suns kick the shit out of them to the point where Matthew's snoozing at the end of the first quarter. You know, I mean, that's a good kind of game. But I get what you're saying. Like, this is a team that you really wanted to kind of see where they're at relative to their how good they are in the Eastern Conference. And the Suns are a good measuring stick. And a lot of Hornets fans came into this game with that same kind of understanding. And this is a game that I will credit the Suns and their offense nonstop. They were fantastic tonight. They also had their highest amount of assists in a game with 35, the previous high being 34. As I mentioned earlier, the most amount of points that they've scored in a season thus far, 9 players in double figures. I mean, the Suns on offense were absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't say that their defense was great. I think that the Charlotte Hornets just kind of got in their own way tonight. As I mentioned, 36 out of 100 from the field and 10 for 45 from 3. That's 22%. They just couldn't hit any of their shots. They also shot 15 more free throws than the Suns and made 13 more. So, I mean, they killed us from the line, if you will. But again, they were a team that just couldn't get out of their own way. So I don't know if I necessarily can credit the defense for that. And I'm with you. I would have liked to see a more solid performance to just have a good understanding of who this team is relative to the Suns, but I'm okay with them kicking the shit out of them. I'm not disappointed, man.
Sure. No, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the 2 naps I took for 10 minutes.
Those were good naps. The Bridges, the other Bridges, Mikal Bridges. Yeah. Why can no one ever get his name right? I was thinking about that today. I'm like, Mikal is not that hard of a name. It's not like
when you first read it and just say it. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, just like someone. No, but like ESPN did it not too long ago where they did the power rankings and they're like, Miles Bridges had a great game against Steph Curry. It's like, come on, like it can't be that hard, but another solid night for him. He was 4 for 6 from deep and had a total of 16 points. And I thought he looked really good. And it just goes to show you, we were obviously very critical on this here pod of his performance on the games where Devin Booker was out. But everything falls right into place for him once Devin Booker's back. Because he doesn't need to be a shot creator. He could just sit in the corner and stroke threes all day. And that's exactly what he did tonight, man.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say disappointing again for the 5th time, but no, I'm just kidding. It's not disappointing for him to actually show up again when Booker comes back. It's good to see the threes go in, even though they're not very sexy looking. It's good to see them go in because now he can just find his role with Booker back. The whole starting lineup's back. Nothing's there's not too much asked for him on the offensive end. He exerts a lot of energy on the defensive end, so you don't really want to put too much pressure on him offensively. We found that out, like you said. So now that Booker's back, you can hit his threes, but I still like to see him get to the rim, and I'd still like to see him pull for that little mid-range fadeaway.
Yes,
more times than none. Just don't get away from it too much. I feel like with Mikal, I don't want it to be where it's like, oh, we don't need it from him, so why should we expect it? Because I expect it. I think he can be that guy still, and there'll be a certain point this season where he comes back and he shows up that he can maybe be a 3rd and 4th option on the offense. And until that time comes, hopefully he can hit his threes and just get more confidence, get back into the lane.
Yeah, and it will. I mean, again, with Devin Booker back, that's everything, and it frees him up to do just that. So. Great job by Mikal Bridges again tonight. Great job by Cameron Payne and Landry Champagne, if you will. They combined for a total of 10 for 17 from the field, which happens to be my birthday, and 26 total points. So I thought they did a great job coming in and spelling. And that's really what put this game away, I feel like. In that first quarter, the Suns, 37 points, Charlotte 15. So they're up 22. And the reason they got to 37 points is because the first team looked fantastic. They looked fresh. They looked crisp. It's almost as if those extra minutes that they took off in the last game against the Wizards were highly beneficial. And we talked about this a little bit, like having the starters to have the ability to take a kind of the entire fourth quarter off with the games kind of falling where they were, right? They played the Blazers. They had a day off. They played that game. They only played 3 quarters. Then they had 2 days off. They had this one. I mean, they were fresh coming in. But then you had Landry Shamet and Cam Payne come in and just continue the offensive onslaught with JaVale McGee. And like that ultimately just they put away early. And because everyone was feeling in a rhythm, as I've mentioned, obviously the Phoenix Suns scored their most points of the season. But it was really nice. It's like Victoria says, if Shamet can kill it off the bench, like look out. And that's a fact.
Yeah.
If we could continue to score those points coming off the bench, like, dude, like watch out.
Yeah, blowout, no blowout. I'm glad that he got off the bench and he started nailing his threes even when we're up by 30. Like he needs that continued pressure on him to knock down those shots because that is just all we need from him. But when you're talking about too, just I don't know. I think that Peyton was terrible tonight. I didn't really want to bring him
Peyton
up.
did
the
look
6
bad.
turnovers.
I was surprised he had as many minutes as he did initially. I get it at the back end of the game because it's a blowout, but he was playing like the second quarter and throwing the ball away, and it was like dumb turnovers too.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's the one thing that we could take away from the bench and be like, all right, maybe not enough of that. I don't think you want to rely on Shamet to be a playmaker either. So, I mean, you'll find it with some other place. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Alfred Payton comes back around to where he just be mediocre again. But it's been rough for him of late, dude. He's not really finding himself.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys who every time he does that, Matthew has to...
Terrible. Take a lap.
Yeah, because that's your boy. You got to take a lap on that one. So, all right, Jamsters, it's that time of the podcast.
Jam star of the game.
All right, Jamsters, just a reminder, if you're listening to the podcast, please give us a 5-star review. And if you are watching the podcast, hit that thumbs up button down below. Helps with the algorithms. Lets all the people know and the entire planet who come onto YouTube and they're looking for the best post-game podcast for the best team in the NBA. Sends them right here. Suns Jam Session Podcast. Matthew, who are you giving your Jam Star of the Game to?
Oh, man. Is it going to be JaVale McGee again? I think it's going to be JaVale McGee again. I mean, when you put up those numbers in that many minutes, I think he only does it in 16 minutes max. You know what I mean? He can do pretty much anything you want in 16 minutes. It's unbelievable. And he's the leader on the board, I think, this year for Jam Stars. And he continues to bring it, man. I'm not saying that he won the game for us because obviously our knockdown 3-point shooting really won it. The assist, moving the ball around like that. But he's just available. And to be a guy to come in and not just, be lackadaisical and just not really care if you're up by 30, be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll get a rebound here or there if I get the ball, whatever. No, he continues to bring it every minute he's in the game. And that's why he's a nice jam star, man. I just can't get enough of him. I can't.
You're going to have to. Okay, so settle down. Okay, Christmas is just around the corner. He's got a family too. Ted Lubin, I like what he says. He says Mick Ayton.
Mick Ayton, there you go.
Ayton, McGee and Deandre Ayton
both
combined.
of them, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. Again, you look at kind of their production in the time that they put out there. So DA plus McGee, that's a total of 40 minutes played. You ended with, mathematically speaking, 34 points, 15 plus 7, 22 rebounds. I mean, that's huge from your interior. And then you couple that with the Phoenix Suns making their most 3-pointers of the year, and it just opens everything up. That's the why. That's the why. That's why this team won tonight, is because we were so damn efficient from the interior that if you try to collapse on us, it left our guys wide open. They hit the shots. Those shots are going to continue to come for this team. So when you have Cameron Payne and you have Cam Johnson and you have Landry Shamet, these guys, Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker, Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul was stroking the 3-ball tonight. He went 2 for 4. Everybody gets these wide open shots because everyone has to collapse on the interior because we're just killing them inside there. And it starts with Mick Ayton. It starts with both Deandre Ayton and JaVale McGee. We had 60 points in the paint tonight, and that's on their effort. So I agree with that one. I think that Mick Ayton is a good call for that. Next up for the Phoenix Suns. Ooh, this is going to be fun because we love talking shit about this team, don't we, Matthew? The Suns are playing in Los Angeles against the Los Angeles Lakers. Where do we start here, Matthew? Where do we start? Off, probably not on mute, is my guess.
Anthony Davis injury.
Yeah, right. So he's out, 4 to 6 weeks? 2 to
yes,
what they say?
Yeah.
An MCL sprain.
Yeah.
So a month for, and again, it sucks, man. It sucks when these players are injured. But unfortunately, when it comes to to Anthony Davis, it's kind of expected at this point. I feel like
it is.
You know, the only time his team won a championship and LeBron won a championship was a time when there was a break for months for the pandemic. And it allowed all the Lakers to get healthy and to get kind of ready for that. Because my guess is if that season had gone on as planned, some injury would have happened. And it was probably the best thing to ever happen for LeBron.
Yeah. It's too bad for this team, right? They can never really pull it together.
Fuck
I don't know if there's I'm just kidding. I mean, the whole Westbrook thing, you called it. I always said in the beginning of the year, I'm like, they're still the best team because they're the two best players on the team together. Obviously, they can't stay healthy, even when LeBron's in the game. I think he's averaging like 16 and 10 sometimes, some games. And it's crazy. Like him and Luka, their numbers just went down tremendously, and it's just not the same kind of player. I think both of them, I mean, LeBron age, so that's always something, and that's something that they've been pointing out the last 5 years. Just his team doesn't have it together, and you kind of figured it out when they got Westbrook. It's like, okay, they're not going to be really a team anymore, right? It's just three guys. We'll figure it out. We'll find a way to win. Right now, it's not looking good at all, and it's awesome. It's fun to watch. Hopefully they don't come back and bring any kind of energy to their team this trade deadline. Hopefully it kind of just stays that way. But I don't know what they're supposed to do, man. I mean, I'm even seeing stuff with LeBron. But LeBron going back to Cleveland is
all right. So
I keep seeing.
Okay,
what do you think about that, man?
Well, so first, let me start with Westbrook, and then I'll move into LeBron, because you know me, I always have something to say about LeBron, don't I? So yeah, with Westbrook, you know, I never was a fan of it because I felt like it was kind of like a mini LeBron who can't shoot in the fourth, right? Like he's a guy who's very ball dominant, who's got great passion for the game. And you love those passion for the game players. And he has a physicality to him that makes sense. But when you have both him and LeBron on the same team, it's like you have two of the same player. Like I just didn't understand how it was supposed to work, knowing that he can't shoot the three ball and he's horrible in clutch time minutes. Like the difference between the Suns and the Lakers is like we have Chris Paul, who is a fucking beast in the clutch time moments, and you have Westbrook, who's like throwing shit off the side of the backboard, right? It just doesn't make sense. So I love this. Who just said this? I'm sorry, this is great for everyone listening. Yeah, come on, click on the comment. Anthony Davis, aka Street Clothes. You know, it's like, you know, again, he's injured. He's always in. LeBron got back. I mean, again, what LeBron does is unbelievable considering his age. Like, I'm not going to diss the guy for his level of passion and the talent that he's displaying at the age and the number of miles that this guy has on it. But Bill Simmons called it, didn't he?
He did.
Bill Simmons said like 2 weeks ago, he's like, I can't wait. He's like, I'm calling it right here. He said, turn the camera on, Kyle. He said, I'm calling it right now. In 2 weeks, there will be stories percolating about how LeBron wants to go back to Cleveland to close his career out because the talent there is young and this and that, and he wants to do it for Cleveland. It's the same thing that happened in Miami with him. It's the same bullshit, because what's happened in LA is they've run into a dead end because of the weight of their contracts. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook, unless you get rid of Westbrook for a ton of little assets, that team is in a dead end contractually. There's nowhere they can go for at least the next 3 years. They can't do it. And it's the same thing that kind of happened in Cleveland, where LeBron smartly, you got to give him props, instinctively goes, you know what, I'm going to sign 1 or 2 year deals, because he gives himself flexibility. And what happened in Miami is after they went through, you know, their 3 finals runs, they won 2, they lost 1. It was kind of the whole, I can tell that D Wade's getting washed. Chris Bosh isn't, you know, a solid number 3, solid enough. And we've kind of run ourselves into a brick wall here. And all of a sudden, over in Cleveland, they had the number 1 pick. And do you remember who they took with that number 1 pick?
Yeah, I do.
Who is it?
Andrew Wiggins.
Kyrie Irving.
They
drafted Kyrie Irving, and all of a sudden the Cleveland team that was fucking horrible the year that he left. The year after he left, they were horrible. Worst team in the league. And then they got the number 1 pick. And all of a sudden they were a team right in the middle, and all they really needed was like a LeBron. And all of a sudden LeBron spins it so it sounds like he's a savior coming back to Cleveland. I'm going to win them the first chip. Cleveland, this is for you. The most staged fucking after winning a championship quote ever by LeBron James, of course. And the same thing's happening now, because guess what? Cleveland's right there in the middle again, right? They just got Mobley. Mobley is a fantastic talent. People are calling him the next Garnett, whatever. He's the first Devin Mobley, and he's fantastic to watch. They got a lot of really good, solid players. They got Kevin Love coming off the bench, playing his role finally. And all of a sudden, now the stories are percolating, just as Bill Simmons said, about LeBron James thinking about wanting to go back to Cleveland. Fuck all that. You get to stay in LA, buddy. You get to stay in the bed that you made. You got all the young, good talent to leave there because you wanted your guys, right? You didn't want Kyle Kuzma. You didn't want not Lamelo Ball. Help me. Lonzo. You didn't want Lonzo Ball. You didn't want Julius Randle. You didn't want Brandon Ingram. You didn't want all these great young talented guys. No, you wanted your guys. You wanted Anthony Davis. You would sit at night jerking off to Anthony Davis's pictures, hoping you could bring him in here from the Pelicans. So you got him. Okay. And now you got Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony and all your old buddies from the 2012 Olympic team. And you guys are dog shit. Now they're dropping like flies. Trevor Reeves has got a walker in the back, into the crypto.com arena. They're done. And you get to lay in the bed that you made, LeBron. That's all your fault. None of those guys wanted to play with you. None of those guys were allowed to play with you. You wouldn't let them play with you. So fuck you, LeBron. Love Void.
And honestly, it probably will happen. But how do you do this though with Westbrook? Like he has to be a guy that you trade because it's been 20 games or so where you've actually maybe combined. I think it's 16 games or 18 games that they played together. But you have to know by now, right, that it's just not going to work and you have to make a trade. But you brought him in here. I mean, you guys are friends. How does that even go over to where you're like, okay, this isn't going to work. You're obviously the same player. I can't change you. You're forcing yourself into this bad relationship with somebody. You already know who they are. You can't change them. So it's not going to work out. You got to get out of it quick. And then Anthony Davis, like, you're going to leave the franchise to the Lakers or leave him the franchise with the Lakers. It's just like, now he's always hurt. Like mentally, I feel like that's going to kill Anthony Davis if he's the face of the Lakers franchise when LeBron leaves and he can't get anybody there to play with him because he's always hurt. So then now he's going to have depression issues. It's always a spiral with LeBron. Everybody that's really kind of attached to him at first and then detach themselves and then they all go into like this mental illness kind of campaign right after. So those are things to watch. It's very strange because I don't know how he gets out of this. And if he does go back to Cleveland, like how fun is that going to be? Who cares? I can't really jump on the bandwagon again with him because I do support a lot that he does, of course, in the out of basketball and I love watching him
support
play.
a lot. Yeah, without a doubt.
I love watching him play too, but these things he does would just tear franchises apart. I mean, they got the bubble championship, but that's not going to really even matter.
Well, I mean, it will always matter because everyone will always put that tick mark next to his name, and I'll give him credit for it. Like they won that championship, right? But again, had there been no pandemic, who says they would have won that championship? Because he needed rest, AD needed rest. They all got the rest that they needed, and they powered forward, and they ultimately won it. So I'll give him credit for that. But in his head, he can't accept that. And again, I do support a lot of the things that he does outside of basketball. But you're right. He's like a black hole going from franchise to franchise and just tearing them apart, and it's all for his narrative. You look at him and Russell Westbrook, and obviously, you're talking about something much, much deeper when you're talking about depression and the mental health issues that might happen from a LeBron fallout. That's Kevin Love, right? I mean, Kevin Love kind of dealt with the mental issues following the LeBron fallout, right?
Yeah.
I think it's easy for LeBron because, LeBron's the classic, when we win, it's my fault. When we lose, it's everybody else's fault guy. Like, I don't think I've seen another NBA player who personifies that in every essence of the word more than LeBron. He's never a we lost, it's because of me kind of guy. He's like, he always strategically puts himself in a place where it wasn't his fault. So if Russell Westbrook needs to be traded, which let's face it, if the Lakers want to be successful, that's the answer. The challenge that they have is nobody in the league wants Russell Westbrook, nor do they want his contract anymore. Right? I mean, the Lakers are stuck. Of course, maybe that's not true, especially considering every contract is tradable. People thought that Chris Paul's contract was horrible and that nobody would ever want to take it on. But if you look at Russell Westbrook's contract and you see what he's making for the Los Angeles Lakers this year, he is currently making $44 million a year. Okay. And he's making $47 million next year before he becomes an unrestricted free agent at the age of 34 the year after that. So you have to have the ability to trade for a $91 million contract. That's what somebody has to do. So they would get a ton of assets for that. But who wants to do that? Who's going to do that?
The Spurs, Popovich will take him in and put him at the center. I swear. That's the only way this can work. Westbrook would be one of the best centers in the league, dude. If you let him play the 5, he grabbed every board.
Let's see it. So, obviously, the Suns are playing them here in a couple nights. Tuesday night, right?
Yeah,
so they're
Tuesday
playing
night.
them. That's going to be a fun game to watch. It'll be on TNT for everyone so they can watch it nationally. And I hope we really see something like we saw tonight. I hope we just kick the living shit out of them because it's just, and every freaking LA fan will be out there telling you, well, Anthony Davis wasn't well, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that record has been playing over and over again for you guys.
Yeah.
So just fucking recognize
I think they're even sick of it by now, man.
Yeah, they probably are. I mean, it would suck to be a Lakers fan in the capacity that you have this guy who comes there and is just constantly injured. So I say the Suns win this game, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Nobody wants Russell Westbrook and Westbrick and Ben Simmons. Ain't that the truth?
I take Ben Simmons.
I would take Ben Simmons.
Yeah, Ben Simmons is a different story. Ben Simmons is still a superstar. So, in my eyes,
I still think he's a star. I don't think he's a superstar. You got to perform better in the playoffs to become a superstar, right?
Yeah, give him another chance.
Right. We'll give him another chance. So, yeah, there's my LeBron rant. These are the things I think about all day long, and I wait for a podcast to come out, and then I'm just like, but Suns win. Suns win that one. So, Matthew, anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here tonight?
No, just, a great win tonight. That's basically it.
Yes, great win for the Phoenix Suns again. Best team in the league. Can't argue with that. It's all right there. So we're looking forward to seeing you Jamsters once we play again on Tuesday night against the Los Angeles Lakers. Make sure that until then, you take the time to hit the thumbs up button below. Follow us on Twitter at SunsJam. You can follow me on Twitter at DarkTheVoided. You can follow Matthew on Twitter
at Matthew. Listen,
subscribe, rate, and review. And real quick, if you want a nice shirt, check this bad boy out. This is a Sean Marion shirt. The Matrix. These are at Just Sports. So if you go to shopjustsports.com, you put in Suns Jam in the promo code, you will get 15% off of your purchase. I highly recommend it. This is some sick threads, once again, that Just Sports has. So appreciate them sponsoring the pod.
Really nice.
And on that note, I am done. I will see you guys on Tuesday, coming live from Palm Desert, California. My wife will probably be shitty again. So Matthew, be ready, because when it drops, you're going to have to bullshit for like 5 minutes until it gets back up. I'm staying at that hotel again.
Okay, I can't wait. Everyone go home and love your family.
Family, take care. Bye.